What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Neo Starling, and I am back here with another podcast. Now, mind you, my speech might be slightly different than normal. I have some Invisalign in because I am trying to fix my teeth so that I can have an excellent smile going forward. Not just for you, but for me, because, well, this is sort of going to be the topic of today's podcast. It's about you, yourself, the Ubermensch. The Ubermensch is you. You are the Superman. You are the person that has dominion ultimately over your own existence. And you know what? I want to talk about that today. So I was thinking about this the other day. You know, I was a little bit under the weather. I still kind of am. I'm taking some Tylenol, whatever. Yeah, I don't care about that. And I was sitting here or laying on my bed reflecting on times past that I allowed myself to not reach the upper echelon. And what I mean by that is going up and ascending to a higher level that I know I'm capable of doing, because I was always afraid of what others thought about me. Hitting the record button was always something difficult. You know, there was something really profound in Charlemagne's book, Black Privilege. I don't know if any of you read it or listened to it on audiobook. I did a long time ago. And by the way, I'm not sponsored by audiobooks or Audible in any way, shape, or form. I just thought that he said something really interesting. In that book, he said, sometimes you just got to hit the record button and see what happens. And that's what you have to do. A lot of us, you see, are paralyzed by fear and worry on what others think and what others will believe about us based off of the actions that we choose to take. You see, not everybody has your best interest at heart. Ultimately, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done and the dust settles, there will be people that don't want to see you succeed. And it's not necessarily because they have any ill will towards you. A lot of the times what you're actually doing is you're holding a mirror up to people's faces, and they don't like what they see. If you grew up with someone and up until this point, you've had similar hobbies, you've had similar interests, and then suddenly you seem to be going above and beyond what that other person at that current moment is capable of, they might have some jealousy, some envy might be springing into their existence, and they don't necessarily mean to be that way. But when you rise and they aren't, it starts to hit them emotionally. It hits them a little different because somewhere in the back of their minds, they feel inferior, right? And they shouldn't feel inferior, because you shouldn't feel bad based off of the current level that you're at. But what you don't have the right to do is hate on the success of others, especially your friends and your family, the people that you claim to quote unquote care about the most. Those are the people that you want to see rise. You want to see them rise to the heavens. Why wouldn't you? I certainly do. Anytime you see my friends do something really cool, they have a milestone achievement of some sort, I celebrate it. I'll promote it on social media. I'll buy their merchandise, you know, whatever the case may be, anything to help the cause, because I want to see the people that I came up with or those that I have met later in life succeed. There's no reason to hate on them. Their success is in no way, shape, or form a detriment to me, because whether I'm around or not, they're going to succeed regardless if they have what it takes. You see, the market inevitably dictates how successful you are. The market will always speak. Even if you don't think that's the case, it certainly is. It's happened in my case. I've often thought to myself, damn, you know what? I'm not where I want to be. I've been doing this podcast for several years now. You know, it's been a while since I've been doing it. Although I have acknowledged and have recognized some weaknesses in my podcast. And, well, one of them is I'm just not consistent enough, right? Because the material is there. The words are there. I have people that message me and always tell me, hey, man, you got some really good stuff you're saying there. Like, keep it going. You know, I've even had a friend of mine that said that my voice was comforting for him to listen to, which I thought was cool. It was a little funny, but I get it, you know, because I feel the same way about certain people as well. Yeah, you ever have somebody that when you just hear them talk, you feel like everything's going to be okay? Well, apparently that's how some people feel about me. So, if anything, that alone should be strength to continue, right? But sometimes we need a little more. Sometimes we need that extra push, that extra motivation. And there are going to be times where you feel inadequate, as a matter of fact. And why shouldn't you, right? Because we're our own greatest critic at the end of the day. So whether you're trying to ascend and, you know, be a content creator or some sort of influencer, whatever makes you happy, whether you're trying to sing or dance or cook, you know, whatever you're trying to do, you might not be at the level that you think you are. And a lot of it honestly just takes practice and repetition. You know, I've said this before, but you don't build like a nice, like honey glazed ham chest in the gym if you're not putting the work into doing that at the gym. So what do? If you're at the gym and you want a nice strong chest, you have to do push-ups, you have to do bench press, you know, you have to do a lot of exercises that are going to focus on that particular area. You know, if you're just throwing your weight around all over the place and you're not focusing on any certain body parts, they're not going to grow the way you want them to. And not because you don't have the ability to do it, but because your focus, your mindset is not there. Sometimes we lose focus and we lose track of who we are and where we want to go in life. And it's really unfortunate because there are people out there that genuinely believe in us more than we'll ever believe in ourselves. And unfortunately, we're not able to see ourselves in that way. Again, I said this earlier, we are our own greatest critic. We have and will always be our greatest enemy to overcome. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see, you make adjustments, right? If you're a woman, for example, and you know, you're like, hey, I think I look decent, but I want to put on some makeup because it makes me feel good. You know what? Go for it. I'm not going to hate on you for what? If I see something in my physical appearance that I don't like, I'm going to make adjustments. For example, my teeth have always been something that have plagued me ever since I was a kid. I've always hated my smile, even though I love smiling, right? But I've hated it. So in my adulthood, I'm taking advantage of the fact that I can afford this now and I'm getting my teeth fixed, right? Because it's going to make me feel better. Now, whether I'm the same person or not is irrelevant at the end of the day. I've had people tell me there's nothing wrong with your smile. Well, you don't have to live with my smile. I have to live with it. Just like if I tell you, well, there's nothing wrong with the way you look, but you want to make some adjustments, that's your right to do. Nobody has the right to tell you what you should and shouldn't do with your own body. I mean, you're the one that's ultimately the vessel. You are the vessel of your own body, and you have to decide and dictate what works well for you. If you want to, you know, get a haircut because you feel that it'll make you look nicer, then do so. If you want to style your hair, if you want to change up the way you dress, looks maxing as people call it, right? These are things that make you feel good, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel good. So do what you got to do, what's best for you, what's best for your sanity, for your mind state, because the way we physically look is often a representation of what's happening to us psychologically, right? So if our mind is in turmoil, that often reflects outwardly, and not only our appearance, but our behaviors, the way we treat people, the way we act towards others, sometimes unjustly, because somewhere in the back of our minds, we know that we're not okay. And because we're not okay, we inflict our pain onto the rest of the world, not knowing that it doesn't have to be this way. If there's something wrong, identify what it is and fix it. If you have haters, let them hate. Okay? There's always going to be somebody that hates. There's always some trollish parasitic organism that isn't doing anything productive with their life, nor are they doing anything to better mankind. All they're doing is simply being parasitic organisms. That's all they are. They just take from you. They just absorb your life essence. They're like a mosquito that you can't get rid of. They're always going to be there, and that's okay. You kind of need people to hate on you sometimes. If you don't have any haters, then that means you're doing something wrong. That means you're not making enough of an impact. You're not leaving a mark on the world. You're not leaving a scar. You know, you're leaving a small blemish that can, you know, be hidden away with some foundation. That's what you're leaving, ultimately, if you don't have people that are hating on you and people that disagree with you. You see, because when you play it too safely, you don't get anywhere in life. The rule breakers, the movers, the shakers, they are the ones that ultimately run the course of the existence that we continue to live. They are the ones that rule the world. They are the inheritors of this plane of reality that we find ourselves in, right? I've said this a lot, and I still believe this, but there's this part of me that kind of gets it in a way. I always say that we make stupid people famous. And by that, I mean people that have no business with the level of fame and notoriety that they've gotten. They might have said something really clever on the internet, or they might have done an action that was caught on film, and because of that, somehow, some way, they are now viewed as these like thought leaders, even though they're nothing of the sort. And you know what? I used to hate on that. I'm not gonna lie, but the reason that I hated on that wasn't because I didn't want these people to be successful, but because it was really frustrating to sit down, record a video, edit it for like 8+ hours, even a week sometimes, depending on the quality of the video, and have some sort of thoughtful, thought-provoking message to give out there to the world, just to see somebody say something really dumb on the internet and get super famous for it. And now all of a sudden they're like looked up to. I've always thought that was unfair, but you know what? Them be the breaks. I just have to deal with the hand that I've been dealt and push forward and move on with the rest of my life, because ultimately what they do has no effect on me. So there's no reason for me to hate. Okay? Hate typically comes from below. You might not agree with this, but I honestly do believe this. I don't believe that hate comes from above. Hate usually comes from below, because those that are above don't have time to hate. They're doing their own thing. These are people that are focusing on making their scar on the world. They are becoming movers and shakers while you're just there getting angry at them. You're the literal troll under the bridge. You know what I mean? That's why I feel that hate comes from beneath. So if you're somebody that's hating right now and you have no real reason to hate, you know, I say just focus on your own life. Focus on those that are important and closest to you, because realistically, a lot of the things that happen in this world don't ultimately affect you in any kind of way. Even if you think they do, they might to a certain extent. There might be some sort of effect that happens based off of who does what and, you know, whatever in life. That doesn't really make a difference ultimately, because if you can't pay your rent, if you don't have a place to live, if your Maslow's hierarchy of needs aren't met, you have a lot more things to worry about than who's in office, than who's famous currently, than who's doing what with whose body. There's a lot of things that you have to focus on to improve yourself. I care about my friends and I care about my family, and those are the only people that I need to focus on. I don't have to focus on the rest of the world and what every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing. For what? There's no purpose. It is illogical. You are wasting mental resources. You are allowing others to rent space in your head that could be utilized for something else, okay? Because our intellect, our will is finite. You might think that it's everlasting because we can always continue to learn, but no, there is a cap on the things that we do eventually. If we start putting focus on things that don't serve us, then we're not going to get any dividends from it, okay? We're going to grow in the fields that we focus on. If you focus on a field that's very relevant to you, then you're going to succeed. And if you don't, heck, maybe you're a number 2, and that's also okay. Because again, not everybody can sing or dance, and not everyone's going to succeed. But the worst thing you can do is allow your growth to be stopped, to be tampered with, because of some random person that lives on the other side of the world that you don't even know. That's one of the worst things you can do to yourself. Do you know how many times in the past when I was younger, I stopped myself from doing something that I felt could have a real big impact on my life because I was afraid of what other people thought about me? Perish the thought. Those days are gone. Okay. And we are in a time and age where that's mattering less and less. People are taking more chances out there. If you want to write a book and you're afraid that people are going to make fun of the topic of your book, so what? Then those aren't your friends. Those aren't your supporters. Often you see supporters come in many different shapes and sizes and walks of life. And a lot of the time, your friends, your own personal support system will not support you. And not because they don't want to, but sometimes they just don't know how. And someone that's never heard of you, that's from like another side of the world, you probably, you know, got through them in a very meaningful and profound way. And if you did, cheers to you, man. That's really awesome. I'm glad. Look, I don't want to harp on too long. I want to keep things very simple. Okay, I'm going to finish off with this. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you. If you want to do something that you feel for yourself is worth doing, whether that's changing the way you physically look, whether that's inserting yourself with more intellect by reading and gaining more knowledge, whether it's influencing and, you know, showing and portraying yourself to the whole world, it's up to you what you want to do ultimately. Okay? Stop worrying about what everybody thinks about you. Someone's always going to hate. You need people to hate. And you know what? There is no phrase. There is no sentence structure. There is no one type of video or type of content that you could produce that's going to prevent people from hating. There are going to be people that don't like who you are just because of the way you look, because of the way you smell, because maybe you said something that slighted them the wrong way. Okay? There are going to be people that hate you just from the first time they see you. And that's okay, because we're not here to please everybody. But with that said, if you feel that you've gained any value from this content, please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. do the damn thing and help your brother out. I'm also trying to carve my own path in this world. And you know what? I want you right there with me. With that said, you are all awesome. And don't ever, ever let anyone tell you different. Signing off.